So what do we expect from Sony? You know, I think it's really interesting that Microsoft has just cut the price of the Xbox One. Sony actually has a head start. I think that being at the same price as Xbox One puts Sony at a disadvantage because Sony was outselling Microsoft so far by 2 or 3 million consoles, and that's only, you know, in 6 or 7 months. Heading into E3, you know, Sony was probably thinking, we'll sell 15 million units a year and Microsoft will sell 10 and we win. I'm curious to see if Sony is ready for a price cut of their own. It's very early, it's unlikely, I'm not predicting that it happens, but I think Sony has a golden opportunity to seize the advantage back by bundling some software with the PS4. So I think it would be really smart if Sony would bundle some launch titles, and they could be as simple as Resogun and Knack, you know, things that they could give you as a digital download that cost them nothing. But to bundle in some of their launch titles and give you a $50 or $60 or $100 value bundled in with the PS4 would be a brilliant move. This is running the week before E3, and so Andy House and Sean Layden, pay attention because this is a recommendation, not a prediction, a recommendation. But I think if you do something like that, you keep your head start because gamers, you know, when it really comes down to it, gamers are tight. They don't like spending money they don't have to spend. They recognize value. I mean, witness all the people who trade content in at GameStop. You know, people realize what things cost. And if you give a gamer value, they're gonna gravitate toward the best value product. The specs on these two consoles, I don't think are sufficiently differentiated to cause anybody to say, oh, I'm buying the PS4 because it's faster, or the Xbox One because it's better looking, or whatever. They both run games that look pretty much the same. And the content is not that differentiated other than, you know, something like a Titanfall. There's really not that much difference between the game lineups. But Sony can say, get Knack for free, get Resogun for free, you know, codes packed into the box or preloaded on the PS4 for the same price as the Xbox, and you got to buy software with that. I think that keeps them selling a couple million more than Microsoft for a while. And I think Microsoft then has to counter and start bundling stuff in with the Xbox One. So who wins? Gamers win. So I think that's really what you're going to see. Sony's been very quiet about new projects. You know, we haven't heard, I don't believe, what the next Naughty Dog project is, for example. You know they're working on something. It's a prolific studio. They're extremely productive. So I think we're going to hear about, you know, something from those guys. Haven't heard a lot about Sony Santa Monica. I think there's something, whether it's a God of War or God of War extension coming. So I think you'll hear about some exclusive content. And dare I say it, it's time for us to hear about The Last Guardian or Agent. We have never heard that those games were canceled, so it's entirely possible we get an update on those. And even if they're not in, you know, PS4 shape, maybe they're PS3 titles, maybe that's something that Sony can do. We're going to drop the price of the PS3 to $199, and it's going to happen the same day that we have The Last Guardian or Agent launch. You know, that would be cool. Can't predict that that's going to happen because it's been so many years since we've heard of either of these games that you never really know. But I think Sony's got enough stuff going on between their proprietary studios and, you know, and the stuff that's been announced as PS3 exclusives in past years that they could surprise us. What I really expect that Sony's going to focus on, though, on the stage is PlayStation Now. Now, I'm on record as being incredibly skeptical that that can work, and I've got to make that clear. I am not skeptical about the technology at all. I got a really nice, friendly email from David Perry, who runs Gaikai, which essentially is the architecture, the systems architecture for PlayStation Now. Kind of explained to me all the tech. I believe in it. I think it works. I think there's no question that they can stream games seamlessly. You can play multiplayer. Everybody's going to feel real time. That's not the problem. The problem is Sony has to have a business model for PlayStation Now. So they've got to charge the consumer something, and they've got to give the consumers something for that money. And frankly, I don't think consumers care if they play off a disc or they play off of a service. But if they're paying extra for the service, then they want to get something for it. I don't think Sony's going to be able to charge enough to be able to give people full-fledged games unless they negotiate with the publishers and they lose money. And Sony as a corporation is not in a position to be offering loss leaders right now. Fair disclosure, I am a Sony shareholder. I own a lot of it because I actually believe in the PS4. And I think the stock is going to work, and I think the company has a great CEO in Kaz Hirai and is going to turn things around. I think they're on the right track. But one thing Kaz is not going to do is offer products at a loss. So I don't expect that PlayStation Now will be priced high enough to offer compelling content, meaning new stuff. And I think they will price it low enough to get a lot of users, but users aren't going to be attracted at $10 if the newest game you get is a 2-year-old game. That's why I think it won't work. It's chicken and egg. If they don't give you enough content, you're not going to sign up. If they don't charge enough, they can't get good content. If they charge too much, you won't sign up either. So they're in between a rock and a hard place on PlayStation Now. They have to price it where it's acceptable to consumers to sign up and offer enough content to induce those consumers to sign up. I think that's a difficult balancing act, and I think they're unlikely to pull it off. The one saving grace is that Sean Layden, who is the new president of Sony of America, SCEA, Sean really was kind of the champion and the lead on PlayStation Now. So I think he certainly understands the product. He absolutely is going to focus on it. I think you're going to hear a lot about it at E3. I think they're going to try to wow you. And I just want to remind you, they tried to wow you with the Vita, was it 2 years ago? A while ago, 2 years ago. And that really wowed us for about a minute, and then we forgot about it. So I think PlayStation Now might go the way of the Vita, not because Sony sucks, but because it's just a very difficult business model to pull off. That's it for my assumptions about the Sony press conference. I think that they will probably be a lot more gamer-friendly, gamer-focused than Microsoft. So I think people like you guys who tune into E3 for games are going to hear a lot about games from Sony. See you tomorrow. We'll have some more assumptions about E3. They make Corvettes, those are fake loud cars, you know. Yeah. They have like an electric engine, but they're, no, just kidding.
That's really funny.
They're not electric. They just say, it's like it's like guys who could never afford a real sports car, when they turn like 60 or 70, they buy a Corvette. Did the guy getting out of there 60 or 70?
For sure.
Is he? Is he an old guy? Huh?
Hilarious.
It's true. Is he an old guy? Yeah. You might see from Sony. Is that the Corvette?
Yeah, he got in his car, walked around for a second, and got right back in.
Yeah, because it's too happening around here for him.